Hello there. I'm going to be showing you exactly how to scale your first agency to $10,000 a month, even all the way up to $30,000 a month from scratch. So if you're a complete beginner or you're an early stage agency owner, I'm going to give you everything. And I'm going to walk you through exactly how I did this by licensing and selling AI sales teams to other businesses. And the crazy part is I've done this a bunch of times in different industries. So this is an agency we started in August. We hit $30,000 our first month. It's called Visionize and it services the real estate industry. And here's like a bunch of other wins from my other agencies that are doing even more cash every single month. And all of these businesses rely on one thing, which is licensing and selling AI sales teams to other businesses that need appointments. And this is exactly how a bunch of my students, as you can see here, boom, 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 have all done the same thing and made a bunch of cash doing it. So I'm gonna ask you to put your attention span hat on and not go scroll TikTok, because if you watch all the way through the video, you're gonna know exactly how I did it and you can just copy and paste everything I'm doing. If you stick around to the end, I'm gonna show you how you can get on all of the softwares I use for completely free. So the first question you probably have is, what are AI sales teams? How do they work? And most importantly, how do I actually make money from them? And so I have this beautiful graphic to walk you through everything. So essentially, we have a business, and let's just say this is an HVAC business, a local business, right? What they do is they go inside people's homes and they basically service them, right? Replacing air conditioning, cooling, heating things, all that jazz. And the way their business works is they have a customer, right? So this is Joe over here with his corporate job. And what happens is he has a problem. And so he goes on Google or Facebook or whatever, and he submits info. And then he goes through this conversion process, right? Where he figures out, okay, what company do I want to actually come and do an inspection and service me? And when they go through this conversion process, if they decide to go with the business, then the business provides value and then that becomes money for the business. Pretty simple. Now, the important thing I want you to remember is literally billions of dollars a year are transacted through these local businesses, and they have what's called a captive audience, meaning that the people that live in their surrounding area will need these services, right? Whether it's a roofing company that needs roof replacements, whether it's an HVAC where they need their air conditioning or heating changed out, whatever that might be, these companies will always have people that need their service. And so, what we want to do, instead of trying to start a completely new business from scratch, like e commerce, or trying to build a really complex business, we want to just come in and help in a certain aspect of this business to make them more money. And instead of trying to keep all the money for ourselves, right, let's just take one of those dollar signs and put that directly in our pocket. Because the easiest way to get rich, especially in your early stages, is not by trying to build something completely new from scratch, is by going into an already working system where money is transacted and just becoming a little middleman, adding some value there and taking a piece. Now, back to our graphic, if we look here, what's the easiest place to fit in, right? The business will not really need help with their service delivery, but where the most customers are lost is either in finding the customers that come to the business or in that conversion process. A lot of these HVAC and roofing and local business companies, they've got a really good product, but they've relied primarily on referrals. So a previous customer sending them a new customer, right? And while that's a good way to build a business in the beginning, there are going to be slow seasons where they're getting less referrals. And if we can give them a way to predictably control how many customers they get in, they're going to happily pay us, right? They already have a way to monetize, right? They already have a service. We're just getting them more customers so they can deliver more of that service. So what we're going to do here with the licensing and selling AI sales teams is we're going to plug in AI systems, and I'll run through exactly what those systems are into the conversion section of their business, right? To get them more customers, and that's how we're going to get paid. Now, if you've stuck around in the business space for over a year now, you've probably heard of the agency model, right? And that model is servicing local businesses just like we are, but there's a fatal flaw with how it works. And so I'll show you what the issue is. With the old way of the agency model, basically what we do is we go out and we reach out to all of these local businesses here, and we're like, hey, pay me X amount, $2,000 a month, let's say that's a retainer, right, to be able to run and manage your Facebook ads, right? So we have to go convince this business. We have to first get them on a call, then we have to tell them why our stuff will work, and then we convince them to give us money. Then we have to also convince them to put $2,000 into Facebook, right? Then what we do is we go and we run these Facebook ads for them and we get them leads, right? And then what happens is our job's done, right? It's not my problem after that, right? We get you the leads, you go deal with the rest. The problem is a lot of these businesses have been working just off of referrals. And so they don't know how to convert a cold traffic audience, right? People coming in off of advertising. And so what ended up happening is so many people went into the agency space, right? The model worked, but then it got very oversaturated and all of these local businesses got pitched so many times and they tried all these different companies and they basically burned a bunch of money testing things out and didn't get results, right? And the issue was they were just getting these leads and they couldn't convert them into customers. And on top of that, a very overlooked issue that a lot of the gurus that coached on the agency model didn't mention was getting this $2,000 from the business was extremely difficult. These businesses do not want to pay upfront for the service. They only want to pay afterwards. And then after having been burned, and then if you're new to the space, you don't have a lot of social proof. It's a very, very, very hard to acquire your first customer. And so, where most people that started their agencies ended up failing was not in the service delivery area there, it was they just never got their first customer. And so, the reason I like licensing and selling AI sales teams so much more than the traditional agency model is because it solves both of those problems, the getting your first customer problem, and then the customer actually being able to get results with your service. And so here's how the new model of just licensing and selling these AI sales teams works and why it's a lot more effective. So I know this looks complicated at first, but trust me, it's pretty simple after I walk you through it. So these businesses will generally already have existing customers. It's called a customer database. And what we're going to do is instead of trying to get them on an appointment and sell them something, we're just going to reach out with a really strong offer. Hey, if you already have some existing customers, I'll put my AI sales team on them and book at least 5 qualified appointments for you. And the cool thing is that's not a hard sell at all, right? These businesses already have these customers just sitting around, not being touched, and maybe they send a text blast out every once in a while. But if they don't have to pay anything up front and it's only upside, they're a lot more likely to say yes. And so what we do is after we get our first customer, right? They're not paying us anything just yet. We then just set our AI sales team onto their existing customer database. And the great part about this is free trials. The reason they're tough with an agency is it takes a lot of work on your end. But putting these AI sales teams, once they're built out, it'll take about 20 to 30 minutes to get this launched. And out of those existing customers, the AI sales team will book a bunch of appointments, right? These are people that have either already worked with the company or people that had thought about it in the past but didn't pull the trigger. And we're able to generate cash without the business actually having to spend anything, right? So we're essentially making them money out of thin air. And so now instead of having to get them to trust us before we ever provide any value, the trust is already there up front, right? You just made them money. And so the next sale becomes a lot easier. We just say, hey, you just got, whatever, $10,000, $15,000 profit off of your already existing database, right? Let's go ahead and put just, 50% of the money we just made you right back into Facebook ads. And let's go generate you some leads, and we'll use our AI sales team to book those appointments, just like we did here. And it's a lot easier for the business to say yes because we just negated any sort of risk, right? They just made money. And so we're like, hey, we just showed you we can bring cash in. Trust us again to bring in even more cash. And they're like, well, you made us 15,000, might as well spend 7 on ads, right? It's not even going to you, right? It's a lot easier. It's like, hey, just put this into advertising for your brand. And so then what happens next is we launch those Facebook ads for them. And these campaigns, I have everything built out start to finish. It's very easy. It's plug and play. They don't have to be very personalized. They're not complex ads because all we need is leads, right? And we just generate a bunch of leads off of Facebook. Some of them are not going to be qualified. Some of them are going to be very qualified. But what happens is our AI sales team will also take over handling those leads. And those AI sales teams will never let up, right? So they'll stay in contact if they need to for months to eventually convert customers, but they'll also convert the people that are ready to go now into qualified booked appointments. And that makes the business money directly. And that's what we get paid for. And now there are two ways to actually make money for yourself off of this. You're probably thinking, I don't want to do a bunch of work up front and not get paid, right? So there's two places where you can get paid. One is immediately after that reactivation, where you reactivate those old customer database for your client. They've just made a bunch of cash and you can take a retainer off of that and then say, hey, pay me 2,000 and put 2,000 into Facebook. Since you already made the money, it's a lot easier of a sell. And the really cool thing is, I know you're thinking, well, I'm doing this free trial. You can generally get that money out of them within 4 to 7 days of that first conversation because reactivation campaigns happen extremely quickly. And that's a great way to start, especially if you're trying to get your first bit of cash in for your company. But my favorite way is actually getting paid off of each appointment that we get for the business. See, if I was running just the normal AI automation agency that a lot of people teach, I would just want to get paid up front, right? Because the product's okay, it's not that good. But we have very, very effective AI sales teams. And if you're able to generate a lot of lead flow off of Facebook, which I also have the system for that, right? If I plug that in for a business, we can be getting them anywhere between 10 to sometimes 100 plus appointments a week, right? Depending on the business and how much they're willing to spend, of course, right? But if we're getting paid anywhere between 150 to $300 for every appointment we book, there's a lot more money in that. And just one or two customers can pay you ten to $15,000 a month. And instead of having to go and focus on acquiring businesses that want to work with you, which is the main issue you run into with a lot of these business models, we just focus on having a really, really fantastic product. Now, quick timeout. I'm going to show you guys everything. I'm going to show you what we're using for the AI agents and what those actually look like in conversation. I'm going to show you the types of ads we're running, all of that jazz. But if you just want to shortcut this process, you want to have my hands-on help to build out everything for you. So picking your niche, picking what type of service we're going to deliver, breaking down, getting my exact snapshots on my AI agents, getting my exact ad strategy, top to bottom, fully built out for you, and just get on my software stack, then there's a link below. You can book a call with me. We can sit down and talk and see if this is a good fit for both of us to be able to get your agency launched and off the ground and actually start making you a bunch of money licensing and selling AI sales teams exactly like I do right now. And if you're skeptical or whatever, there's also a link to my Instagram below. Go look at that. I post so many wins of our customers. I post the deals we're closing and how much cash we're bringing in. You can see all of the social proof on there that you could ever want to see. And then you can book a call, completely up to you. Or don't do it. It really doesn't affect me that much. But this is something I'm offering right now for a select group of people who are serious about getting their agency off the ground. Without further ado, though, let's get back into the video. So now I want to run you through exactly what types of softwares we're using and how everything's built out. So this is one of my clients. He basically runs a YouTube growth service, fantastic service. I actually worked with him before we ended up partnering up, and he's worked with some of the biggest guys in the sort of online and info space. But anyways, we're inside his account, and you can see here we have all these different sequences that will fire, right? So we have email sequences, we have text sequences, we have webhooks set up. This is overcomplicated for what you'd need to start, right? This is a much bigger business, but when you're starting, you're going to actually build your own business within the CRM. This is where everything's hosted, right? So this will be things from your websites, right? Your website and your landing page so that companies can see that you're a real person, to your automations. So when you get a new customer, what types of things are sent to them, all of that, all the way over to things like your pipeline stages and your contacts, which are saved here. I'll show you a quick example and blur out some of the info. But you can see there are a bunch of different contacts here. We have over 1,000 pages worth of contacts. And then even your conversations. This is where you actually message your contacts and everything is synced in one place, which is really convenient. So what we're going to do is once you have that software, you get your Go High level set up, you're then going to build out all of your social proof, right? So you're going to get a domain, right? So if you look up All the Digitals, that's my domain. But you'll have your own company name, your own company domain. And then you're going to have your website hosted. You're going to be able to build out, okay, what email sequences do I send? How am I going to store contacts, tags, and organization? Now, if you don't want to figure that all out, of course, you can just copy and paste my exact system. I use this for all of my clients and I use this for myself as well. But once that's built out, I'm going to run you guys through exactly what you do next. So we've got all of our stuff here. We've got our website, we've got our conversion sequence, some of our basic automations, a calendar to book on, our A2P so we can message. That's for another video, but basically once we have all of that, our main issue is that these businesses have no idea that you exist, right? You're not good, you're not bad, you just do not exist in their mind. And so what we need to do is we need to get our name out there. That's the number one thing you're trying to overcome when you get a new business going. And this, by the way, is why the traditional agency model struggles so much, right? You get stuck in this phase of getting appointments, getting people to know who you are, and getting your first customer. I've seen people go for over a year before they get their first paying client. And all of that time, they're paying for their software stack here, which is necessary regardless. And so they're just losing money, which is a tough thing to do, especially in your early stages. But the nice thing is because we're licensing and selling these AI sales teams, we don't need to get in front of nearly as many customers as we would otherwise. And so what we're going to do is instead of having to send thousands of DMs, thousands of cold calls, spend a bunch of money on ads, whatever your first acquisition method would be, we're going to be very personalized. So to each of these businesses, we're going to find them and we're going to send personalized messages through the form of either Loom outreach or very personalized DM outreach. And I don't want to go for as much of a volume play here. Instead, I want to focus on value first. We're going to lead with a really strong offer, basically being upfront. Hey, I charge nothing upfront. It's zero down. I just want to make you more money off of your existing client database. I have this full AI sales team system, and you're actually going to show a little snippet of it in action. And then you're going to send that over to them, and you're going to be like, are you even remotely interested in hearing more about how we can just plug this in, completely hands off for you, and add an extra 5 to 10 qualified appointments within the first 10 to 15 days? Now, I want to be very upfront here. This does not mean that you're going to get your first client overnight. That's generally actually not how it works. It generally takes a lot longer. But the fact that everything is very personalized and the fact that we also get to be honest about our offer up front being free means it's very low risk to that business. And since we're offering something that literally is a direct ROI to them, the odds someone says yes are a lot higher than if we're like, hey, pay me $2,000 up front for me to run some ads for you. And the best part about this is this outreach, while you can do it personalized, there are also ways to have AI basically automate this for you and automate the outreach in the same way that we plug in AI sales teams for our customers. We can have these run for ourselves and do outbound for us and basically start to get us booked appointments, qualified booked leads to get on our calendar. Now, the whole outreach and appointment booking side is such a vast topic. I'm going to make another video going very in depth on it, but I'm going to give you a couple tidbits of information that should be helpful just to kind of give you a kickstart when you do your outreach. So, first one is if you can set up the AI agents, which I'll run you through in a minute for yourself, it's going to save you a huge amount of time messaging everyone back and forth yourself. And those AI sales agents are really, really good at what they do. And so if you get, someone even remotely interested, they can generally turn it into a booked appointment. The other thing that I think is so valuable is I'm going to show you guys how to create AI clones of people really, really quickly. If you can send someone a video of themselves, either talking about your product or service or some, an ad, whatever that may be. We do both when we do our outreach. That is such a standout mechanism, something they're so not used to seeing, that if you see someone DM you a video of yourself in your inbox, you're going to open that and watch the video to see what it's saying. And I get so many responses where, if we just sent a lame normal DM, they'd have just completely glossed over it and not even read it. But that's an absolute hack for getting people to actually consume your outreach messages and be willing to book a call. And you go a little bit above and beyond and stand out compared to everyone else sending these mass cold DMs. So let's assume that you follow the outreach strategy, right? You get a couple people interested. You have your AI agent reach out to a bunch of businesses here, and then this one says yes. So you have the AI agent auto book them onto your calendar for you. You don't have to be involved in any of this. And they're going to be scheduled in for a Zoom call with you, right? And so now we're on to the sales stage. How do we actually make the sale? So the big thing I want you to remember is sales is a whole separate skill in itself. And for a beginner business model, I don't want all the weight on you being like a 10 out of 10 salesperson, because then it's not a good beginner business model, right? It's only good for people who spend years mastering the skill. And at the point I'm at now, I can collect large cash amounts up front, right? I know what I'm talking about. I've been doing sales for a while, but if you're in the earlier stages, you want to remove as much pressure as possible from acquiring your first customer, right? Because if it's super hard to get your first customer, then it's really hard to get your first case study, which means it's really hard to build social proof, which means it's even harder to continue to acquire more customers, right? We want to get momentum first. Now, again, sales is a whole separate topic in itself, and I could talk about sales for days on end, honestly. But I want to make it as simple as possible. And so, what I'm going to break down is the offer I would give, how I would present it, and exactly how I'd make sure that the people actually convert. So, let's go through each thing. This is a super simple checklist for your first couple sales calls you want to hit. So, when you start a sale, first thing that you're going to do is you're going to give them a high level of what you do. You don't go straight into just asking questions. You say, hey, what we do is we license and sell AI sales agents, and these will book qualified appointments for you, handle all of the communication. You don't even have to think or worry about them. All you do is show up at the appointment and close the deal. So let me run you through how that works. Before I do that, though, I want to ask you a couple questions to understand more about where your business is to see how I can be most helpful. Right? That's the start of your sales call. Super simple. Then what we're going to do is we're going to ask questions, and I have a whole list of questions that I recommend you ask, but not to go too deep into that right now. Your main thing you're trying to do is either find the problem that they're dealing with right now or the solution and desired outcome they want. Now, most people will tell you just focus on the problem. Some of your best clients won't really have a quote unquote problem, right? Their business will be doing very well, but they're just going to want to grow even more. They're ambitious, right? And so don't be super stuck on things are going poorly in your business. Just be like, hey, like, do you have a growth goal you want to hit? Or, oh, have you been stuck relying on just one source? Would it be helpful to have more? Right? And just genuinely be curious, and you want to find either the problem or the goal that they're looking for, what they feel like they need support on. Once you find, a general intrigue, right? They have a goal, they have a problem, and they have a little bit of sort of motivation behind it. The next thing I want you to do is not overthink your pitch. Instead of trying to tell them about how awesome it is and how great the results are, I just want you to show, right? The software in itself is so powerful and the system in itself is so powerful that when they see it live, they'll be impressed. So all you want to do is get a really good AI agent. You can just copy one of mine, plug that in and demo live a conversation. You can say, hey, take out your phone. I'm going to have my AI agent send you a message, go back and forth, and let them literally converse with it back and forth for 3 to 5 minutes. Have it call them, have it message them on Instagram, have it message them through text, have it send emails. And it will blow them away how good these AI agents are, right? We want to lead product first instead of putting all the pressure on sales. And so you just get a really, really effective agent. When they see it live, right, they don't have to trust you that it's good. They know it's good. And what I also want you to do is after they see the AI agent in action, they're going to pay a lot more attention. So show them the agent first, and then you're going to run them through, showing them just like I did, your CRM system. Hey, here's where we store your leads, right? Here's the automations that fire. And don't go super in depth on it, right? You don't want to bore them to death, but just show them that you have a real serious system on the back end. You're not just another kid in your mom's basement trying to sell them marketing, right? Now, after we do that, we want to get what's called buy-in from the customer. And so buy-in is essentially them being like, yeah, I can see this helping. So you want to ask them, hey, John, after going through everything, seeing the whole system in action, how do you feel? Are you like, it's just another basic marketing system, dime a dozen? Or are you like, I actually see how this could be effective and helpful for my business? And you want to pay attention to how they respond to that. They're like, it's just another marketing system. Then something in the pitch and the way you presented it did not go over very well. But if they're like, yeah, I see the value of this. This is really cool. I want to hear more. They now have buy-in and they're interested, and you have permission to go on to the next stage. So once we have buy-in, we want to create a price anchor. So when someone sees something, oftentimes when it's newer like this is, they're not going to have something relative in terms of value, right? So they don't know, should this be worth 10,000? Should it be worth $500? I don't know. So you want to price anchor around the software and how much they make. So you can be like, hey, normally when we bring customers on, we charge them 500, 300 to $500 for a qualified appointment, right? The software stack alone is $2,000 a month. And then we have our messaging costs, all of this really build the different things and the complexity of what's involved in it, so they're anchored high. Then what you're going to do is you're going to go into your pitch, and you're going to give them some urgency, a reason to act now. But if you're willing to take action with us on the call today, you're ready to rock and you love this system, we will waive all of those costs up front and we will take on all of the risk. Again, what you're trying to do here is you're trying to show that you're serious about doing business with them, but you also want to give them a reason to do business with you now instead of delaying it. And so what you're going to say is, if you're ready to do business now, we'll take on all of the risk, we'll handle everything, we'll build out this entire system top to bottom, and we will launch this to reactivate your old database. This way we can create money out of thin air off of the leads that probably have not been touched in a while for you. And then from there, once we actually bring money in and you see our system working for you, then we can discuss putting money into advertising and us getting paid. How does that sound? And essentially, you're pitching a 10 out of 10 offer. There's zero risk up front. There's only upside. They don't have to pay you anything, so they're not risking getting scammed, right? And it's a very easy yes for a business owner. Now, some people will be like, David, I want to charge up front from day one. You are not in a spot just yet, if you've never worked with a business, where you should be allowed to charge up front, right? You need to earn that right. And so the first things first, like you're selling them on investing their time and giving you their leads. And that's the first sale you want to make. You want to make it as easy as possible for you to get that. So I don't even worry about money being involved at first. But I want you to remember that you are not working for free. You're just paying your dues first, because within 3 to 7 days, once they've made money off of this, you can charge a lot more, right? By getting, one out of two people you talk to for this free trial to say yes, then, one out of four people that you bring on board, these are very low numbers, by the way. If one out of four decides to continue with you can charge them two, three, $4,000 because the trust is already there. You already made the money. Versus if you're just trying to charge up front, or you're actually going to do a lot more work. It's just instead of getting your system refined and getting customers better results, you're going to do all that work on the sales side, just continuing to send out those looms, continuing to get on sales calls, continuing to not close customers, continuing to hear them say, I want to think about it, right? So we're just putting the pressure on the fulfillment. And even though, yeah, it's a free trial up front, you're building the trust with them. And because the trust is there, they're going to be willing to pay a premium to continue to work with you because they already know your system works. Now, congrats. At this point, you have your first customer, right? They haven't necessarily paid you yet, but we have someone on board who is interested. And so I'm going to run you through how the AI sales agents actually work. But the first thing you need to do is you need to onboard them. So in Go High Level, you're going to build out what's called a sub account, right? And you want this sub account built out. It's going to be the same for every client. Now, I have obviously my client sub accounts already built out. They're very effective. If you just copy and paste those will be 10 out of 10, right? But if you build it on your own, you want to make sure you get a basic email drip sequence set up. You want to host their website there, and you want to be able to host their contacts. And so once you get them and you create their sub account, you're going to get a list of their leads. I generally recommend get a CSV file. This is basically a way of breaking up and organizing them. And you can import those directly into Go High Level. You import those leads and it's going to create a lead list with a name, phone number, email, contact info. And the cool thing about Go High Level is it will also save notes, right? So now when you have your AI agents actually communicate back and forth, it saves the conversations. It also will take down notes of specifics like, hey, does this person have, a kid, right? How long have they been looking for a new roof or a new heating system, whatever it may be. But with that said, let me go ahead and show you what the actual AI system looks like. So this is our actual agent software. And what you have here is an agent trigger. This is an example of a setter, right? And you copy this agent trigger URL, you're basically going to plug that into Go High Level, the CRM, and it's going to create a webhook. To make this super simple, when you create a customer, you can add what's called a tag, right? So you can say AI hit this, right? When that tag happens in the automation section, it's going to send a message to the URL we just copied, and that's going to tell this to fire, right? And it's synced with Go High Level. You can see here the different communication platforms. And so you can do things phone, text message, Instagram, whatever. But when we actually go inside, you'll see it works on what are called milestone nodes. And so this is how the agent is built out. And if we go ahead and hit here, we hit test flow. When we hit test flow here, you see it pops up and it says, hey, Alicia here, this is David, right? And you also see where it lights up. Now, there are some specifics here, right? We have actual training in here, and so we can choose continuous follow-up. We can add follow-up cadences, right? You have smart milestone detection, breaks up the characters, has intentional typos. We have all this different stuff. We can choose the type of voice, the reading level. There's even more ways to program this, but I'm going to go and discard changes for now. But you'll see that in the milestone, it actually lights up. So you can see what's going on here. This is just a test event, right? So this will actually send over text message. And I can show you an example of a message I actually have back and forth with my agents. So I'm going to pop up an example of the agent video here. Basically, what this is it's a conversation back and forth via DM. This was my first test with it, and you can see how it kind of handles the objections. It gets people interested, and it gets them booked and scheduled, and it actually sends a time that's available. Very, very interesting to see live. But now we've gotten this message, and it's basically reaching out to us. And this is how it would message for, like, for example, a roofing appointment center. Hey, Alicia here. This is David, right? So let's do a response that an actual person would do. Yes. Who is this? And it's going to go ahead and send. And now the agent, it'll have auto wait. Essentially, it'll wait a couple of seconds to make sure they don't send multiple texts, and then it'll start the response. But you see it's activated live right here. Okay, I just sort of shortcutted that for you. It took like, I don't know, 10, 15 seconds. But basically it says, hey, David, I'm Alicia, right? His assistant. Not sure if you're looking at taking on more detailing jobs, but he asked me to personally reach out. Wanted to see if you're open to beta testing our new system. Want to hop on a short Zoom to see how it works, right? This is an example of if you're selling this to detailers. And so you actually look here, you can see the reasoning that the system goes through. This is a lot more advanced than, there's a lot of softwares out there that are just super basic. This is a lot more advanced. Goes into keyword identifying phrases, figures out basically based on the outputs. Are we speaking with the right person? Did they say specifically that we're not, or did they just not confirm? And then you see it bumps because it says, hey, yes, they said it was their name. If they say, no, that's not my name, it'll confirm if they're a detailer. But here it goes straight here to make it simpler. And they've showed interest. And so then it follows this messaging flow. And the cool thing about this is not like an automation where it'll only reply to a certain type of response or something like that. It's actually able to think and it's smart, but it has a very clear path it follows. And so we're able to predictably know what direction conversations will go every single time. But you can see all of the reasoning here. If you want to read through this, you can. But then based on its reasoning, it decides this is the best thing to say. And so it responds with this. Now, obviously, I showed you an example of a more complicated conversation where there were objections, but because of the intentional wait time, it just take a while to go through a super long, monotonous conversation where it handles all the objections. So I'm just going to show you like the short version here of how it actually works. But basically, you can see I said, yes, let's do it. I was a very easy prospect, so to speak. Awesome. What time zone are you in? And you can see now it's gone to the booking section. And what's going to happen is you're going to say the time zone, then it'll be like, cool, I have this time, this time, this time, and this time open. What works best for you? Oh, this time's open. Great, let's schedule it in. And there's one really important differentiating factor here I want to mention. So most AI agents can't even book appointments. And then if they can, it's very robotic. So it'll say, I have openings on November 11th, November 12th, and November 13th at 11, 11:30, 12, 12:31, 1:32, 30. And it's just like nobody would message that way. What this one does is it'll ask the time zone and what times you're normally free, and it'll give a few spaced out throughout the day. And it's also able to pick up what tomorrow is, what next week is, all of that stuff. It's able to use actual context clues, which like a normal automation or a dumber AI would not be able to do. But this means it has a way higher booking rate, and also the conversations. All of my agents have been trained on top 1% what are called DM setters. So people that are able to set appointments over DM. And as a result of that, they get fantastic results. They convert better than if you hired like a Filipino person or a foreign person to do the messaging for you. So you actually get clients better results without having to pay commissions. It's cheaper, it's faster, and it's just such a streamlined system. But I also want you to think about, you probably heard about selling AI receptionists, all this different stuff. This can do phone, text, Instagram, whatever, but it's also intentionally designed to do sales roles. Those are revenue generating roles. And so if you think about it, a business will happily pay a salesperson 10 to 20% for however much revenue they generate because it's directly profitable, right? And so what we're doing is we're just creating this automated way of filling sales roles for these businesses. They would be more than happy if you said, "Hey, I'll get you 10 salespeople that'll convert customers for you." They'd happily pay you for that, right? Instead of just getting humans to do it, and it's a lot more operationally complex, we're just having AI do it. So it's so easy to get them to say yes and have you plug in the system, and it's new and it's shiny and it's sexy and they want it. And so that's what I think so many people miss is like you need to be able to easily acquire customers, especially in an early business, even if it's not, necessarily the most profitable, even if it can't go to $1 billion market cap, right? Whatever, you just need to be able to easily acquire customers so you can improve your service and make more money. If it takes months to get your first customer, you're basically cooked from the get-go. Now, the really cool thing is the setup's actually quite quick. So all you need to do is make the new sub account for your customer, right? Then you take the same exact agent, you fill in some of the blanks on, hey, here's what the roofing business has been around for X amount of time, and this is the pricing of their services, and all of the basic stuff. It takes about 30 to an hour to actually get everything launched for a new customer. So it's a little bit of a time investment, but not nearly as bad as hopping on like dozens of sales calls. And once you get that launch, right, all you need to do is the build out, like the time investment is in the beginning. It's building out the base CRM platform, making sure the agent is functional, getting that synced with your Go High Level, but then plug and playing it for new customers, have that done in less than an hour for every single one. And then the cool thing is during that sort of trial phase where it's booking those appointments, you don't even have to touch it. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to worry about it. Just let it run for between 3 days to 7 days, as I said, and let it start booking appointments for them. Now, there are going to be a couple of scenarios that'll happen after that week. So one is they just don't have a lot of people, or they're super old, super low intent, and you're just not going to have that many appointments booked. In that case, what I would do is I'd hop on and I would explain it. I would explain, hey, we ran everything. It just seems like a lot of these customers are old, and you actually lean into it, and that's a problem. We can help you get new customers, right? We can actually get you more appointments. But you saw the AI work live. You saw how it handled all of those conversations. You didn't have to pay a salesperson, none of that. And they're going to generally be pretty sold on the AI, even if it's not like super profitable for them. The other situation, which is I'd say it's about 70-30 that it goes the the right way. And for the 70%, it's going to do fantastic. It'll book them some qualified appointments. They'll be able to go out and they'll hopefully close one or two of them, and they'll be extremely profitable. And so they'll be excited to speak with you next. Now, the other thing that people will worry about with free trials is, will my client ghost me, right? But again, if your product's fantastic and they love it, right, you have the leverage now. They want to get more appointments the way you just did, right? You just spawned cash into their pocket. And so you can basically, if they're not responding or they're not getting on a call with you to talk about getting paid, you can threaten to remove the system. But in my experience, that's very rarely an issue. And what you do next is you hop on and you're like, hey, we have a few routes we can go. And at this point, you need to figure out how you want to charge. As I said, you can either try and collect cash up front or you can go for pure performance. The good thing is, though, even a beginner salesperson, because there's so much trust built from your product having already worked, right? They're now going to be willing to pay up front, right? Because they already see that it works, they already trust you. On the flip side, if you want to do the pay per appointment model, great. I would maybe gauge this based off of how friendly the customer is, how big of a client they are. If they're really big, I would lean towards the pay per appointment model. If they're a little bit smaller, I might charge more upfront. Um, but regardless, you're gonna pitch the idea of Facebook ads. Now, when you sell them on Facebook ads, there's a very intentional way I would go about this because you need to keep in mind people have been selling Facebook ad agency services for years now. And a lot of the people you're going to be talking to, they'll have been burned before by a different agency. And so you need to do what's called counter selling. Essentially, you explain, look, when you've worked with people in the past, if they have, right, when they run Facebook ads for you, they have to do all the work on the Facebook side, right? They have to find the lead, they have to qualify it, they have to make sure it has intent, and then, you have to have someone call it and handle the conversation, right? All we need to do is just go purely for a volume play. We can get you the cheapest possible leads using lead forms or simple funnel pages. But you basically explain, hey, we just need to go for a volume play because as you saw, our AI sales agents can reactivate any sort of conversation. And so what's going to happen is immediately when that lead comes in, our AI sales team is going to take over the emailing, take over the texting, take over the calling, take over that entire conversation for you. And it's going to do the pre-qualifying and booking. So even though we're going to get a lot of leads that probably aren't qualified, you don't ever have to touch or deal with those. It's not going to waste any of your time, right? The AI sales team will qualify and then book the ones that should be booked. So it doesn't matter how qualified they are coming in. We'll do the sifting for you essentially. And then you just say, look, we made you X amount, or even if you didn't, you're like, just trust me with $1,000 to spend. And you can leverage the fact that, hey, I'm not, unless you are, right, which is fine. I always charge up front now. But if you're in the early stages and you're just doing the per appointment, you say, look, I'm not even asking to get paid. If I didn't think this was going to work, I wouldn't waste my time on it. But just put $1,000 into Facebook for me. And for a business that you just made money for, most likely they're going to say yes. And then we're going to run basically these lead form ads. Now, I'm going to run you through real quick how we create these ads for them because we want to do what are called video ads instead of image ads. Image ads are good for testing and, this is stuff that I'll cover in another video. And if you decide to work with me, we'll go super in depth on it. But essentially, we're just trying to get as many leads as possible as quickly as possible, and video ads are better for that. The issue a lot of people run into, though, is that their clients are slow to film. And so I'm going to show you how to be able to create video ads for them extremely fast without even having to have your client film a single thing. So just so you can see, I think this is kind of funny, but you'll probably think this is cool. This is basically just an AI hook to one of our ads.
If you're a young agency owner looking to make money with AI and not deal with the guru advice, listen up.
Basically, we were able to create these AI videos super quick. So I created that in like probably 1 minute. And what I did is I created the AI image and then I turned it to life, basically created a video out of it. But we can do the same thing with your client, right? We can basically have them record a 5 minute headshot video and then have them record some audio and we're able to plug and play and create AI avatars of them in any situation. So my favorite platform for this is a platform called the HeyGen. I actually have an even more in-depth system using something called Fall AI. Um, and that's how I get my highest quality avatars, but this one works extremely well. Basically, once you create an account here, and I promised I would talk about how you can get free software stacks, so I will in the end. This is, I don't know, it's not super expensive. It's like $40, $50 a month. But basically, you go here and you create your avatar, and you're going to create one for your client. And I'll show you an example of my avatar just so you can see what it looks like. This walks you through everything, so there's no point in me running you through it here, but I'm going to show you an example of an avatar of me. So I think this is hilarious. This is an example of one of my avatars. I literally made this in a couple minutes, by the way.
Winner, tu digital twin está listo. Intenta crear videos con él. Además, haz clic en el botón de comentarios para compartir.
Anyways, you can see it can change languages. It looks just like me, and the facial expressions and speaking is super accurate. In fact, this is like a separate thing, but one of the things one of my content creating clients is doing is they're looking at creating long form videos with just AI avatars, and they're kind of incredible. You can barely tell the difference. But what we're going to do is we're going to use that HeyGen platform to create AI clones of your client now. And then now we can create ads for them. And you're probably thinking like, okay, what type of ads should I run? What should they say? And we also have a system for that. But this means that your client doesn't have to film. And all you do is get them to basically say, hey, I'm willing to allocate $1,000 of spend into the platform. And then you can do the rest, and you can get these ads done within, again, just 1 more hour of your time. The AI agents are already set up. We just need to start running these simple lead form ads, and I'll show you how we do that. But before I go into like the actual media buying and running the ad side, you're probably wondering, how do I run this? This is an example. I basically have an AI, Claude, which is the best copywriting AI, fully trained on literally hundreds of ads I've written. It's trained on the guy that taught me how to do copywriting. I'm very experienced in the marketing side. I've spent years learning it, and I've written hundreds of ads in every industry. And so this thing's really good. Basically goes through the market research stage for me. Actually, you'll see when you run it, it goes through 10 different steps, and then it'll write out these ads. And these are really, really good ads, actually, if you read through them. But if you just use ChatGPT, those ads generally don't perform well. These are ads like literally intentionally written to perform well. It's designed, the whole AI start to finish has been trained specifically on how to write Facebook ads extremely, extremely effectively. And so it's good at what it does. But then all we need to do is we basically get those ads scripted out. We plug it into HeyGen with the AI avatar of your customer. And then those ads, they perform extremely well because you're just going to run 10 different video ads, and your ad set like setup is super simple. You can do campaign budget optimization, one ad set, and then throw all of your ads in there. And you basically just want to set the budget anywhere between like $60 to $100 a day. Another little tip, just in terms of dealing with clients, I recommend you get the spend loaded into the account up front so they don't see $30, $50, $100 spent. It's easier for them to just spend it once and then not have to think about it. But what this will do is you're going to get these lead forms submitted. These are the cheapest types of leads. You're going to get a lot of junky people, but you're also going to get some qualified, sort of diamonds in the rough. And what's going to happen is those lead forms will go straight into your CRM, go high level, and then your AI agent will be able to hit all of those leads and start the conversations and do exactly what I showed you earlier, where it books those appointments. But you're going to have one designed specifically for cold lead form leads. So it's better at handling objections, and it does a little bit more selling. This means that when you run those ads, it's going to book the appointments for your client. They don't have to think about it. Same exact thing as when you ran the reactivation campaign, except for now you're getting new people that normally wouldn't have even found the company. And there's a couple of reasons this is so good. One, it's a pretty easy sell. They already trust the AI at this point. And so you're also like, look, worst case scenario, you're getting more brand awareness. But two, they don't have to worry about having these funnel pages and this crazy messaging, because we can keep our fulfillment very simple. It's like, hey, we're getting a bunch of people that are interested in your service, and then we're just booking them on your calendar directly. And another reason these companies like it is these leads aren't shared, right? It's only going to their company. It's not going to 5 other roofing companies, which is what they're used to dealing with. And so the cool thing is they do an even better job at closing, converting these into paying customers, because it's just a one-to-one sale instead of competing with all these different companies. But there you go. From there, it becomes much simpler, right? You've got this client now. I always ask for a testimonial video about the experience right after I run the reactivation campaign. So they're going to be very excited. They haven't spent any money. So this is more social proof for me. And then all I would do is I would basically start to stack up your testimonials on your landing page inside your Go High Level CRM, and continue to send anywhere between 20 to 30 of these sort of personalized outreach messages, and you add more and more social proof into them. Using the AI system to do it, you can double or triple that number. And then from there, the cool thing is you don't have to worry about getting a ton of customers. You've got the system working for them, right? It's booking appointments. You already have proven it works from day one. And so now you just get your first deal off of ads, and then you have them allocate more of that spend to the ads and double the budget, double the budget. And you just keep running these simple lead form ads, right? You don't have to worry about super fancy pre-qualification, all of this, because the AI, basically appointment setter here, does all of that work for you, and you don't really have to think about it. And what's cool is you start charging per appointment. You can have the retainer if you want to, but you can do both if you want to. But I love charging anywhere between $200 to $500 per appointment, depending on the industry, right? And so they'll pay you $200, and then they'll pay Facebook maybe $70. It's $270 on average for them to get a qualified booked appointment, right? That they show up to. They close 1 in 5. and they're making $5,000 to $7,000 off of it, it's worth it for them. You're making a bunch of money, and if you run up the spend with them, I think I've showed examples early in this video, but we have clients that'll do like $16,000 days for us off of their off of the leads they're buying. And so you can get people spending a huge budget and really grow with that company. And this means 3 to 5 really good partners, you can be making 30K plus a month instead of having to rely on stacking up these tiny little retainers. Now, I want to be very transparent because you're probably feeling two things. One, you're probably like, okay, this is a little bit simpler than I expected, but also they're maybe a little bit overwhelming in terms of the little pieces throughout it. I can guarantee you it is not going to be easy from the get-go. Once you get momentum with it, it becomes a lot easier and you can really stack up customers. And we've been able to go from one industry to the next and kind of copy and paste the system. And now it's super fast for us. We're able to hit $30,000 plus in the first month using this system. But in the beginning stages, you're going to have to figure out the AI system, the CRM, all of that. And there's a lot of complexity involved in that. And even with all of that in place, like you're going to have to go through the fire, so to speak, of filming your videos, setting everything up, figuring out the tech. Even with my hands-on help, I would be lying to you if I said there was any way to make $30,000 plus a month that's a walk in the park, right? It's just not realistic. I'd already mentioned I've successfully done this in a bunch of industries and I'm continuing to expand. And so what I'm doing now is I'm taking on some really close one-on-one mentees that I'm helping build out their agencies, and they're getting everything. I had promised you in the beginning I'd tell you how you can get these softwares for free. And essentially, for my students, when I take them on board, I want you to be risking as little as possible. Now, obviously, it's not free. It would be impossible for me to, I'd have so many people message me already for help. It would not make sense for me to be able to just help everybody for free. But for my students, when they invest in me and my mentorship and my hands-on help, they get my entire system. So they're going to get all of my AI agents. They're going to get my entire CRM snapshot. They're also going to get my ad tracking, which I didn't even go into in this video. They're going to get all of my prompts. They're going to get my AI copywriter trained on me. They're going to get live recordings of me closing these deals so that they don't have to figure it all out from scratch. You basically get everything plug and play so that you just have to do the inputs and follow the actions, and everything's sorted for you from day one. So it makes it a lot easier to succeed. But on top of that, I want to make it as no-brainer as possible. And so if you get all of these softwares separately, and I'll have links in the description for everything, but if you get all of these softwares separately and you get them on your own, you're going to be paying somewhere along the lines of $1,500 to $2,000 a month to get everything live. And it is necessary to have these because you have to show your client what the system looks like. On the flip side, what I'm doing for my clients is I'm basically getting them loaded into my sub accounts. So they're going to get, as I said, all of the snapshots, everything already set up and built out for them, but they're also going to get the softwares for free. So this means even if it does take a month or two to get traction, even with my support, they're not losing money on the softwares, right? And so that way the investment they make into me and my time and my training and everything that they're getting to shortcut the path to success, they're going to more than make that investment back just from the free software stack they're getting from working with me. And so there's a link in the description if you want to speak with me about this and see if we're a good fit. You can book a call to talk to me. There's zero pressure to do this, but it is an option if you're really serious and you like this business model and you see the value in it. And as a bonus for the people who do book, I'm very picky with who I take on as a mentee. And so not everybody will get offered a spot, but for the people that do take the time to book and show that they're actually serious about this, even if I don't end up taking you on as a client, I will get you set up with my own snapshots of my AI agents for you, just to give you a kickstart on your journey since you're actually serious about making this thing work. So if you either want a snapshot of my agents or you're really interested in working with me one-on-one, go ahead and book on below. I would love to speak with you and share more about how this model works and give you some insights to get you started on your journey. And if you want to kickstart in terms of the advertising side, so you can figure out how do I actually build out really effective campaigns and how do I actually use the copywriting system correctly, then I've got a video linked here. You can go watch that. Should give you a lot of detail and give you a lot of value in terms of getting this thing off the ground. Anyways, I hope you got a ton of value. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.